going to look for tomorrow? I mean, obviously, I think we're going to look at turnout, right? That it's probably going to be down. These are Arizona's a big early voting and mail-in state. Florida has it, but Illinois and Ohio not as much. So maybe we see significantly lower turnout in those two north or midwestern states.
Yeah, I think that's pretty safe to say that we're definitely going to see much lower turnout in Illinois and Ohio. And as much as I think some of the popular commentary is saying, well, Florida and Arizona might make up for it with the ABEV vote, I still think we're going to start seeing some suppressed turnout numbers there in both of those places, just because people are reacting to this so quickly. Even if we just think of what the news was saying even 3 days ago compared to now, I think people might have been telling themselves a few days ago when they could have turned in their absentee votes or applied for their absentee votes. Now it's just a different ball game, and so people may have started to miss their window for some of these alternative options, and might just be saying, "Well, now it's not worth it to head to the polls." I think one of the things I'm curious in seeing, and considering the decisions from the exit pollsters to not go into the field in some of these places, I'm very curious, I think, to see what the age turnout is going to look like. Is it Are there particularly older people who are going to stay home because of this? And we may get some information from the AP VoteCast exit poll about that. However, this will sort of be a long-term trend where once we start to see what the actual vote rolls say in these states, that'll be able to tell us a little bit about coronavirus's effect on the primary. But I think, yeah, we're looking at turnout in all four of these cases, and so I think places might be a little bit more hesitant to call some races tomorrow night in some of this with considering some of the large variables attached to it. Scott, what do you think about turnout in some of these states tomorrow?
I certainly think we'll see a depression, but not just because of the coronavirus. Because I think most people think, especially on the Democratic side, Biden's going to win. And states like Arizona and Florida are going to have probably 50% ABEV, which means people can mail it in or have already mailed it in. So I think that'll blunt any downturn in turnout. I was talking to someone else today. It looks like Ohio might be close to 20 to 30% ABEV. Illinois could be north of 20%. So it looks like people are finding alternatives to voting. I mean, we'll certainly see. I was looking at Twitter. There's a lot of people thinking that maybe, depressed turnout, especially among the elderly, might help Bernie out. It's we'll find out. I guess it wouldn't be the biggest surprise that happened in the last 10 days, but I think I think these races are pretty much set, and turnout will be lower. But the polling shows that these guys, it looks like it's Biden's to lose.
Yeah, and I think you're right on, especially as we focus on the top of the ticket. But it's also important to note that some of these
Yeah, like
places
Dan
have.
Lipinski. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Illinois 3, I think everybody's going to be watching. Dan Lipinski barely survived by the skin of his teeth in 2018 against Marie Newman, and we're on for that rematch this cycle. And if Dan Lipinski's if his it's an open primary state, and there was some evidence last time around that Republicans voting in the Democratic primary might have helped him over the edge in some of the exit poll data that we saw. That is, some Trump supporters in Illinois might have helped push Lipinski over the finish line. If those people are staying home due to some concerns in those Chicago suburbs, then that could be sort of a surprising finding and result out of tomorrow night, where maybe under healthy conditions, that outcome may be a little bit different.
Yeah, that is the main down ballot race that we're watching tomorrow night. There are down ballot races only in two of the states, Illinois and Ohio. Nothing too marquee on the Ohio side, but certainly the Illinois 3 Democratic race is the one that's people are going to watch. And if you're not familiar with it, it's Dan Lipinski is one of the few pro-life Democrats in the House. He's getting primary challenged again from Marie Newman, who has got the backing of the progressive coalitions. So that's a really big race to watch tomorrow night. Beyond that, looking at the presidentials, you see the number of delegates out there. these are just not great states for Bernie Sanders. People looking for a way to see if he can get a path back. I think most people are coming to the conclusion that it's certainly Biden's lead and probably nomination to lose at this point. Sanders in 2016 didn't win any of these states. The closest that he came was in Illinois, which was about a point and a half race, and then it went down to between 12 and 16% losses in places like Arizona and Florida. So not exactly the ground that if there was going to be a Bernie comeback, that he and his supporters would certainly want to launch that from. So I think tomorrow people expect this to be a fairly good night for Joe Biden. There was the debate last night. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that, if you watched it at all.
Well, it was certainly a different debate just in terms of the format with no audience and now it being a two-person race. This, in an odd way, almost resembled a general election debate just because it was everybody had their focus 100% on the other side of the podium there. And so I thought it was an interesting race as we sort of saw on some issues, Joe Biden sort of inching leftward, but on some other issues, particularly the Medicare for All debate, him holding strong and even pointing out to Bernie, well, hey, single payer healthcare and Medicare for All is not going to get us out of a mess like this. Just look at Italy. And so I thought it was an interesting ideological clash across multiple issues here.